You'd think that after the last two videos popped off collectively higher than Toledo, Ohio's population, that I wouldn't follow them up with a video that 0% of the population cares about. Then you haven't been here very long, have you? The title of Bestest Puzzle Game Ever is one that is highly debated and carries a heavy burden by, again, nobody here. However, me saying Best Puzzle Game probably got some cogs turning. Like if I said Best Platformer, Best Roguelike, or Best Card Game, some ideas probably come to mind. I'm here to say that every single idea you just had about the Best Puzzle Game is wrong, invalid, and embarrassing for you. I'm sorry to give you trauma that you'll hold on to forever and periodically remember, even years after it happened, and re-experience the embarrassment all over again, but you shouldn't have been wrong. The Best Puzzle Game is not Tetris, Hatris, Tetris 2, Wetrix, Chuzzle, Bejeweled, Pipe Mania, Where's My Water, Honey Pop, Wario's Woods, or even Hatsune Miku Logic Paint S, featuring classic characters like Hatsune Miku and who the fuck? No, it's Pen of the Pawn 64. I'm not dragging it out anymore. It's Pen of the Pawn 64. Fuck you. Thank you for watching this. It means a lot. Now, the thing about Pen of 64 that makes it so interesting to me is that it's a fake game. It didn't come out. Now, your brain may have just done a somersault there, and honestly, I don't blame it. So let me lay down the context, the Penal lore, if you may. It's now the year 1995. The SNES is going strong, the PS1 is gearing up for colonization, and a couple of decently big games have come out this year, including the first ever 3D platformer. I don't know, I feel like that's a bit of a big deal. It is in this year, more specifically October 27th of this year, that the glass ceiling for puzzle games would be shattered, reconstructed, and reinforced when the Manic Pixie Dream Fuck game called Pen of the Pawn released. The game was developed by Intelligent Systems and was produced by Gunpei Yokoi, who made Rob, and the Game Boy, and the Virtual Boy, 1.5 out of 3. Decent batting average. He's also the producer for... My God. To say he knew what he was doing would be disrespectfully underselling the man. The story of Pan Pan the Pon Pon stars Lip, who is the Princess of Popples, which is a magical world with magical beasts and fairies who control every aspect of reality. One day, this dream pixie manic dream slop dream is introduced to the novel concept of terrorism, and all of Lip's friends are MK Ultra'd into hating her very being, resulting in bare-knuckle fights with blocks until you face the real villains of the game, including the real-life Greek personification of death, Thanatos. Hated by everyone, described as merciless and indiscriminate, bro sticks out like a sore thumb in this candy cotton world. I love him. Everything culminates in a final fight with Cordelia, who reveals herself to be Lip's mother, who caused this humanitarian disaster to see if Lip was capable of ruling Popples. A bit of a batshit avenue to take for that. I didn't even mention the best part. You unlock the other fairies as you beat them and everything's fine and good at the start, but once you get to the actual villains, if you lose, the character you're playing as dies. Like, they are taken out of the select screen and everything. They're gone. And remember, they control aspects of the world, so when they die, that part of the world is fucked forever. Bit of a batshit avenue. The handling of this game is what sets it apart from other puzzlers, with its honestly disgustingly simple gameplay loop that somehow ends up at breakneck speeds. There's 6 different blocks that come from the bottom of the screen. If they make it to the top, you're washed. Now this is where the simple comes in. I want you to think about how this controls. 5 seconds. Okay, half of you went too complex. You moved them left and right to make a match 3. That's it. Not even fucking up and down. It makes Chuzzle look like Math 55, but the play of stacking combos and chains is like the high of making T-spins, but it's constant. Combos happen when you get more than 3 blocks in a row, and chains happen when you get multiple matches in a row. Chains are really your bread, butter, toaster, and electrical socket here. Setting one up, then starting it with a trigger block, or creating one while everything falls apart around you are both viable options, with the latter being the obviously more fun one. The game also leans more towards making chains in the moment by having the blocks stay stagnant in the air for a few seconds, really letting you get in there and beat the shit out of people. The multiplayer is also a standard affair. Do good, send the garbage blocks, they're washed. It is the most on your toes quick time event, ask a Brit to season their food level and insanity I've ever seen in a puzzler. Shit's got me dead to rights. It owns me. But pretty words can only go so far, as you really need to be in the driver's seat to fully understand how good this feels to play. Kinda like how you have to feel the raw, earth-shittingly strong power of a Porsche pushing warp speed against the entirety of a police department to understand why I say Most Wanted is the best racist. The best racing game? By now you've probably noticed that the game sports a very 90s anime art style, being a lot more Sailor Moon and Renma than Evangelion. Coupled with its music, characters, and overall feel, this game has a standout sense of personality when compared to its contemporaries. And in the era where puzzle games had the most personality, that's pretty damn impressive. See, I fuck with the vibes that this game puts down. Problem though is that this is 2024. This game came out in 1995. The vibes were not going to be fucked with. Anime was nowhere near as mainstream as it is now. Yes, the 90s was when anime was beginning to make that breakthrough, but Sailor Moon would just begin broadcast in America around this time. A cutesy puzzle game about fairies and boxes boxes would not have worked. I mean, Wild Woody just came out. Do you think America would give a shit about Panel to Pawn? Nintendo clearly didn't think so, which is why they gave this game one of the biggest localization overhauls I've ever seen. On August 11th, 1996, we got Tetris Attack, despite the fact that this game has absolutely nothing to do with Tetris. This release takes the fairies out back behind the barn to slaughter them and replace them with Yoshi and Tetris, again, for no reason. The game was hit with the big old Yoshi's Island paintbrush, with the characters, sound effects, and music being mostly from the best game in a series, At Me. The story was also changed to a more simple Bowser bad guy story, with the mother twist being removed because while Bowser has canonically had sex, I don't think he made Yoshi. Yoshi predates him. Yoshi beat the fuck out of him as a baby. This split in the Penal universe would last for almost the rest of the franchise, with both versions going in wildly different directions, many of which fucked over the Japanese audience, and at the end of the day, ripped the franchise apart. Tetris Attack got a Game Boy version, and then both versions of Tetris Attack got Japanese versions under the Pan-Pon spin-off brand. But now it's time to think about the Pan future. The game was well received, so a sequel made sense. If goddamn Wetrix can get a sequel, anything can. And thus, Panel the Pawn 64 began development, keeping in line with the wonderful naming scheme of N64 games. The game would keep the original art style, just spruce it up thanks to the upgraded tech, and would feature a new story about the events after Lip became the Queen of Popples. A Game Boy Color panel game, aptly titled Panel the Pawn GB, was being developed alongside it, utilizing the N64. Both games were fucking canceled. Not just one, both of them, no fucking reason why. I thought it might have something to do with the unfortunate death of Gunpei in 1997, God rest his soul, but a prototype of Panel 64 was found dated 1999, so no! What in the big slender man in the sky compelled them to clip this game's wax wings before they even left the labyrinth? We'll never know, we'll never know. I will die and become plant food before I figure this out. Fuck it, who cares? Sometime, I guess, during or after these games' development, the organs would be harvested and repurposed in the Pokemon games. Panel the Pawn GB would be turned into Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, which got a Japanese release, and Panel the Pawn 64 would be turned into Pokemon Puzzle League, which didn't. What? Not only is this the only Penal game to not release in Japan, but even more damning is that it is the only Pokemon game in the franchise's 28-year history to not get a Japanese release. Who fucked whose wife to get this level of hatred? Regardless of how we got here, we now have Pokemon Puzzle League, which is half of the Penal 64 coin and the most popular title in the franchise's history, bar none. You also probably noticed that they ditched the Tetris namesake, instead changing it to Puzzle League, which is what the franchise will be referred to from now until our inevitable heat death. That's for the best. Both the name change and the inevitable heat death. The game takes place during the good era of the Pokemon anime, At Me, Do It. It centers around Ash being invited by Professor Oak to go to Pokemon Puzzle League Village. Fucking. From here, the menu and subsequent game modes wrap around this concept. They all take place in specific buildings with a story to explain their events, which is such a nothing addition. Most puzzle games are just like, here, you want to play Line Clear? Fuck you! Except for the occasional story mode, so it's neat that they went through the effort and gives the Pokemon Puzzle League Village concept some merit. The story goes exactly how you would expect it to. You fight the Pokemon Puzzle League gym leaders, then the Pokemon Puzzle League Team Rocket, and then the Pokemon Puzzle League Tracy, who the hell remembers you? And then the Pokemon Puzzle League Elite Four, and then the Pokemon Puzzle League Mewtwo, to which Ash is given a trophy and the title of Biggest Boy. We are all so proud of you. The gameplay is damn near the exact same as the original, except now the AI has something going on up there, as opposed to how it was before. This results in the game being more chaotic because you're going up against someone who has a chance as opposed to punching down, which I'm not above, but I'd rather have fun with it. They also decided to make use of the N64's raw horsepower by adding a 3D mode where instead of a column, you now have a cylinder, and it's just as rough as it looks. In my time, I have matured, and by that I mean I've learned to not die in 5 goddamn seconds, but this is still too zany for me. I do like it when this game mode gives me combos on the other side of the cylinder that I've been neglecting for over a minute. That's fun. Another addition is the ability to choose which Pokemon you use in a versus match, and to my knowledge, this doesn't change a damn thing. There's no type advantages, so it's essentially just choose the Pokemon that has the least degrading soundbite. The answer, none of them have a least degrading soundbite. Nobody shuts the fuck up in this game. There is barely any dead airtime in this game. Versus mode, forget about it, go daft. Line clear, these three can't keep their jib shut. Puzzle mode, you're essentially fighting to make the most amount of noise possible. At least the music's good. A lot of it is instrumentals from the Pokemon to Be a Master album, which wears the musk of the 90s so predominantly. Too bad I can't fucking hear it. Now, like I said, to a lot of people, this game is the peak of the franchise. Not me though. I'm cool and different, and the next one's my favorite. I do see it though. The gameplay is the best it's ever been. The game looks great. It's essentially a celebration of the early era of Pokemon, and as much as I shit on the village name, it does give the game modes a sense of setting and polish to what's normally just blank game modes. If the next game didn't exist, then yeah, this is the best puzzle game ever, and technically it was for a bit until 2003. On February 7th, 2003, 3 years since the last Japanese released panel game, and 8 years since the last proper panel game, Nintendo Puzzle Collection released for the GameCube, and with it came the finished version of Panel of the Pawn 64, now just called Panel the Pawn. Yeah, the 5th game in the series, Panel the Pawn. To me, this is the peak of Panel. It is the perfect sequel. It takes everything the original did well and expands it. For some reason, that Lip Princess of Popple storyline was abandoned during development. In fact, the only characters that return are Cordelia and Thanatos. Well, at least Thanatos is here. I don't know what I would do without my buff, oiled-up Greek man and my baby puzzle game. The main characters are the descendants of the original cast, but the original cast themselves don't show. It's weird. The story is also damn near the same as the original. Peaceful Popples, terrorism, MK Ultra bad guys win. But they do some neat things with the characters and expand on the villains, and give them unique locations, so it's not just one long Abbey Road for the entire thing. Why the fuck does this game have peak design in it? This game is for girls and non-Americans, and I like Wild Woody. Why is he here? And why have they not used him since? The story just feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. The final boss just busts through the ending like one final gotcha prick. It's so needlessly charming. It just looks beautiful too. The fight illustrations, the sprites, the mix of 2D and 3D assets in the story mode, it's all just so good. The music fucks hard too. God damn, it's almost perfect on every front. It is a shame though that after Pokemon Puzzle League put so much emphasis on the presentation around the game modes, we're back to cold menus and no backstories. But that's what every puzzle game has, so I'll get over it. It also has the benefit of being on the GameCube, so instead of using the worst controller on God's Rock, it uses the best one. Overall, these games make up the two wolves. They make up the two wolves of Panel 64. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and if you didn't like one, I'm sure the other would suffice. The Nintendo Puzzle Collection was actually supposed to get a release outside of Japan. It even made an appearance at E3 2003, but of course, it got canceled. I'm not even surprised at this point. I'm just numb. Now wait a second, I hear you not saying. It kept going after this, right? Did they just not improve after this? No, they didn't. For the last 2 big games in the series, they decided to scrub all the personality out of them in order to make a version so all territories can have. While I get the reasoning, and yes, these are still good games, just the base panel gameplay alone makes them better than all other puzzle games, that lack of personality kills them for me. I might be in the minority of the people who care about this series, but it's that presentation that makes me jump through the hoops of playing this one rather than playing the more easily accessible ones. I did buy a Japanese GameCube and a copy of the Puzzle Collection just to play it. That should tell you how good I am with money. The last new appearance of Panel did have personality, but that was because it was a game mode in Animal Crossing Welcome Amiibo, so it gets one by virtue of being there. You do not deserve a trophy for participation. As of writing this, it's been almost 8 years since the last new Panel appearance, and 15 years since the last full game, and it's never coming back. It being added to Switch Online kinda cements that to me. Puzzle games like this in general just aren't that popular anymore. They were big during the 3rd and 4th generation and early 2000s computer days, but that's about it. Now puzzle games are just tied to app stores, which makes sense. They're easier to develop and produce 1,000 times more money than if they were on consoles or Steam. Like Chuzzle, which got a mobile sequel in 2018. God is dead. At least the original Panel got the best send-off it could've. A game with the best gameplay loop, best controls, and best personality out of any puzzle game before and after its release. Panel 64 is the best puzzle game ever made. I'm gonna fucking dox you if you say otherwise. What? Look, dude, I don't know. How do you want me to end a video like this?